In today's gas markets, every cubic foot that leaves a reservoir is tracked, costed, risk-tested, and carbon scored before it ever reaches a customer's burner. A gas master plan makes that orchestration possible by threading 18 workflows into a single living loop, the Strategic Control Tower. What follows is a customer-friendly journey through that loop, showing how each workflow hands off to the next when branches open and where feedback snaps back to tighten the model. From the very first data ping, business intelligence and data assimilation turns thousands of raw signals, production meters, price ticks, refinery turnarounds into one trusted dashboard, while in parallel market intelligence and competitor analysis tracks LNG tenders, rival projects, and policy whispers that could sway demand. Those twin lenses flow straight into demand forecasting, where economists layer GDP curves, weather analogues, and contract nominations to project every sector's appetite, and into supply forecasting, where reservoir and maintenance models reveal precisely what the fields can push. If demand threatens to outrun supply, the model flags a divergence and branches into scenario planning and sensitivity analysis, stress testing what-ifs, such as price crashes, heatwave spikes, or export bans. Refined curves loop back into both forecast towers so the imbalance vanishes before it becomes a crisis. Balanced pull and push then pass through the green filter of energy mix and sustainability scenario planning, where carbon budgets, hydrogen mandates, and CCS options reshape volumes and routes. These adjusted flows are rehearsed inside network modeling and simulation. Compressors, trunk lines, and LNG berths are digitized, throttled, and stretched until every bottleneck glows red on screen, far cheaper to fix virtually than in steel. Each remedy or reroute becomes a line item for economic and financial evaluation, where analysts convert valves and welds into IRRs and NPVs, ruling out ideas that can't clear the cost of capital. Winners advance to capacity planning and infrastructure investment, turning economic positives into a timed, shovel-ready roadmap before landing on capital allocation and funding strategy to secure the right blend of equity, debt, and partner money. Nothing moves until regulatory and policy alignment verifies permits, tax exposures, and export quotas. Any red flag loops the design back for adjustment. In parallel, stakeholder engagement and governance wins board approvals, community trust, and investor clarity. Without that social license, no trench is dug. 3 enablers lock in next. Workforce and capability planning makes sure drillers, data scientists, and HSE pros are trained or hired. Digital transformation roadmap aligns sensors, cloud spend, and AI analytics, and ESG and sustainability governance sets emissions baselines and disclosure schedules. Live execution then faces reality, so risk and resilience management monitors cyber dashboards, hurricane cones, and geopolitical wires. Any threat spike triggers mitigation plans that reroute gas, cash, or talent, then post the outcome upstream. Alongside performance management and continuous improvement tracks, KPIs, when throughput drifts or costs creep, it spins up a sprint that feeds fresh evidence all the way back to business intelligence and data assimilation, tightening the master plan on the next pass. Finally, aging assets fall under asset retirement and decommissioning planning, which charts plug and abandon schedules, restoration budgets, and salvage values, piping those liabilities into future capacity and funding cycles so the next generation of projects starts smarter. What emerges is less a pipeline than a living circle. Data feeds forecasts, forecasts inform plans, plans confront risk, risk insights refresh data. Each rotation sharpening accuracy, resilience, and value so that every molecule that leaves the reservoir arrives at your burner reliably, competitively, and with a shrinking carbon footprint. The following section, we will have a deep dive that offers a closer look into each of the core processes that drive strategic planning and execution in the oil and gas industry. You will see a breakdown how each process operates, who's involved, what tools are used, and how decisions are made, all grounded in current industry standards and operational realities. When you think about strategic gas planning, everything starts with the data. The business intelligence and data assimilation process is the engine that collects, cleans, and clarifies the entire information landscape. We're talking about market prices, Internal figures, regulatory updates, and third-party reports, all coming together, structured and visualized in one centralized view. Why does that matter? Because every decision downstream, whether it's forecasting demand, allocating capital, or preparing infrastructure, relies on facts, not assumptions. Without a solid data foundation, the entire planning process becomes guesswork. That's why this function is always on. Data analysts and BI specialists run it continuously, fine-tuning inputs in real time and performing a deeper tidy-up each month. The process draws on a broad set of inputs: publicly available energy market data, internal repositories, even white papers, and unstructured third-party analytics. From those, the team produces powerful outputs: interactive dashboards, detailed reports, and visual tools that help planners, strategists, and executives grasp what's really going on. Behind the scenes, the systems that make this possible are robust and enterprise scale: Tableau, Power BI, SAP BW/4HANA, and Azure Data Lake. These tools handle both structured and unstructured information, bringing it together in one digestible stream. But this isn't just about software. It's also about smart human judgment and thoughtful automation. There's moderate manual work involved: data collation, validation, refinement, and AI plays an important role. Natural language processing helps extract insights from text-heavy sources, while predictive analytics adds foresight to the mix. The team works on a rhythm: monthly updates with a more comprehensive review each quarter. A full BI cycle usually spans 1 to 2 weeks. And the constraints? As you might expect, accuracy, timeliness, and the constant challenge of data availability. Still, this process is where it all begins. It's the single source of truth the entire division relies on. And when delays or inaccuracies creep in, the ripple effects are immediate, which is why there's always a what-if plan ready. In short, business intelligence and data assimilation provides the timely, accurate decision-making foundation on which the organization builds every plan, simulation, and investment. Demand forecasting is where the organization translates raw economic signals, like GDP growth, weather shifts, and historical consumption, into precise estimates of how much gas customers will need. Run monthly and updated after major market moves, this step sets the pull side of the equation, so the supply strategy doesn't chase ghosts. Economists and demand planners use tools like SAP ERP and Azure ML to build short and long-term forecasts, validating trends and testing scenarios like economic downturns or spikes in sectoral demand. The value? Accurate forecasts mean smoother operations, fewer mismatches, and more confident investment decisions. Supply forecasting estimates how much gas can realistically flow from production fields by accounting for maintenance schedules, new well activity, and potential outages. It's updated monthly and triggered instantly if a major field underperforms. This process ensures the organization doesn't overpromise or leave infrastructure sitting idle. Production and reservoir engineers drive the analysis, making sure that supply commitments align with physical reality. Energy mix and sustainability scenario planning explores long-term pathways to integrate lower carbon fuels, like hydrogen, into the existing network, all while ensuring alignment with evolving net zero goals. This process is typically run twice a year, reflecting the pace of regulatory and policy shifts that shape the broader energy landscape. Sustainability planners and strategy teams lead the effort, working with projected energy mix data and corporate emissions targets to produce detailed transition scenarios and roadmaps. It's a highly strategic and planning-intensive process that weighs environmental commitments against operational feasibility. The outcome isn't just regulatory compliance. It's about future-proofing the organization's role in a decarbonizing economy and sustaining competitiveness in a greener market. Scenario modeling tools and algorithms help simulate different policy environments and adoption rates, ensuring that the organization remains agile and prepared as expectations around sustainability accelerate. Network modeling and simulation is where the organization performs digital dress rehearsals of the entire pipeline and processing network. Using real-time demand and supply forecasts along with infrastructure capacity data, engineers simulate how gas will flow across the grid under various scenarios. These virtual stress tests are invaluable. They expose bottlenecks, inefficiencies, or pressure constraints before any real-world steel is laid. The process typically runs every quarter or just ahead of major infrastructure decisions, ensuring smart capital allocation on pipelines, compressors, and plants. Pipeline and process engineers lead this effort using specialized tools like Pipeline Studio and Aspen HYSYS, supported by AI-based optimization models. With minimal manual effort, the team generates detailed performance simulations and bottleneck reports that inform both investment planning and operational readiness. Whether preparing for an infrastructure expansion or guarding against unexpected disruptions, this step ensures that the network is resilient, efficient, and ready to meet forecasted demand. Economic and financial evaluation is the stage where technical concepts are translated into financial reality. Once simulations and network plans are complete, finance analysts and economists assess each option through the lens of profitability, payback period, and risk exposure. Their job is to distinguish between nice-to-have ideas and investments that truly pay for themselves. This process ensures that every project meets the organization's return thresholds and aligns with broader financial goals. It typically occurs after each simulation cycle, at least twice a year, and relies heavily on inputs like projected costs, operational assumptions, and simulation outputs. The output is a set of detailed financial analysis reports that guide decision-making and shape the capital investment portfolio. Using systems like SAP, FICO, and Excel, supported by financial forecasting models, analysts perform high-effort, high-stakes evaluations that balance budget constraints, long-term value, and short-term returns. In uncertain markets or shifting economies, this process provides the financial discipline needed to keep investments smart, sustainable, and profitable. Capacity planning and infrastructure investment is where financial viability meets physical execution. Once the economic evaluations identify which projects are worth pursuing, this process transforms that shortlist into a detailed construction roadmap, defining exactly what will be built where and when. Strategic planners and project managers work together to balance growth ambitions with available budgets, aiming to avoid both overbuilding assets that may go unused and underbuilding in ways that leave demand unmet. Typically conducted annually during the budgeting cycle with quarterly updates as needed. This process is guided by prior financial assessments and long-term strategic goals. Using tools like SAP Project Systems and Primavera P6, teams map out timelines, dependencies, and resource requirements with moderate manual effort. AI-based investment sequencing helps optimize the build-out for cost, capacity, and time. The output is a clear, prioritized infrastructure investment plan that helps the organization manage complexity, meet demand reliably, and allocate capital with precision, even in the face of delays or shifting market conditions. Scenario planning and sensitivity analysis is the organization's safeguard against uncertainty. It plays out a wide range of what-if scenarios, like sudden price swings, demand shocks, regulatory changes, or infrastructure disruptions, to see how resilient current plans really are. Strategy and risk teams lead this process through deep-dive exercises each quarter or in response to major external events. Their goal is to uncover hidden risks before they become real-world problems, ensuring that the organization's plans can withstand black swan events and wildcard variables. Drawing on inputs like demand and supply forecasts, economic models, and policy frameworks, the team uses specialized tools such as Crystal Ball, Palisade at Risk, and SAP Analytics Cloud to simulate and evaluate different futures. The output includes detailed scenario reports, sensitivity analysis, and clear recommendations. It's a hands-on process that blends expert judgment with simulation-based forecasting and Monte Carlo models. By identifying vulnerabilities early, it supports smarter decisions, better risk mitigation, and strategic flexibility in an unpredictable energy landscape. Regulatory and policy alignment ensures that every strategic and operational decision remains legally compliant and financially viable in a fast-evolving policy environment. This process monitors new laws, tax frameworks, export controls, and international climate commitments, then adjusts business plans accordingly to avoid costly non-compliance or project delays. Legal counsel and regulatory affairs teams lead the effort, typically conducting formal reviews twice a year, or immediately when a major rule change lands. Using regulatory tracking portals, legal databases, and compliance dashboards, they interpret complex legal shifts and translate them into clear action. Compliance roadmaps, policy impact briefs, and legislative risk registers. The process heavily depends on inputs from scenario planning and sustainability planning, ensuring regulations are not just tracked, but also integrated into long-term forecasts and decarbonization strategies. AI tools like natural language processing engines help scan policy documents, while impact scoring models assess potential consequences. With medium manual effort and strong cross-functional coordination, this function keeps the organization one step ahead of lawmakers, ready to navigate licensing timelines, carbon pricing schemes, or tightening export quotas. In short, it protects profitability, secures operational continuity, and shapes a forward-looking, regulation-proof strategy. Capital allocation and funding strategy determines how the organization will finance its approved projects, whether through internal cash reserves, external debt, or strategic partnerships, while staying within financial constraints. This process balances the drive for growth with the discipline of maintaining a healthy balance sheet. Led by the CFO, Treasury analysts, and the Investment Committee, it aligns funding decisions with corporate financial goals, investor appetite, and long-term ROI expectations. The process occurs during the annual budget cycle and is revisited mid-year to adjust for changing market conditions. Drawing inputs from prior economic and financial evaluations and capacity planning, the team develops a 15-year CapEx and OpEx envelope, along with detailed funding mix recommendations and ROI thresholds. Using FP&A platforms and capital portfolio tools, supported by AI for portfolio optimization and sensitivity testing, they evaluate trade-offs between cost of capital, project timing, and return expectations. Medium manual effort is required for scenario building and stakeholder alignment, especially in navigating constraints like debt covenants, ESG-linked financing terms, and return on capital requirements. Whether dealing with rising interest rates, a funding gap, or CapEx overruns, this process ensures that the right projects get funded at the right time, maximizing long-term value while keeping financial risk in check. Stakeholder engagement and governance is the process that ensures the organization has the trust, transparency, and alignment needed to move projects forward without delay. It builds relationships with key external and internal stakeholders, communities, investors, regulators, and the board, while setting clear governance structures and decision rights. This ongoing engagement fosters accountability and accelerates approvals by making sure that all parties feel heard, informed, and respected. Corporate affairs, communications teams, and board secretariat staff lead this effort, using inputs like the current project pipeline, regulatory positions, community sentiment, and shareholder directives. The outputs include structured engagement plans, governance charters, and dashboards that track stakeholder impact. The process runs continuously with formal touchpoints during quarterly board reviews and rapid response sprints, often every 2 weeks, to update communication plans or governance materials. High manual effort is involved, from organizing meetings and briefings to managing relationship risks. Advanced stakeholder CRM systems and board management portals streamline some of this work, while AI-driven sentiment analysis helps surface risks and opportunities hidden in public feedback or internal correspondence. This function depends closely on prior regulatory and policy alignment and capacity planning to ensure stakeholders are brought in early and meaningfully. It must also navigate constraints like disclosure obligations, local norms, and reputational sensitivities. Whether facing public opposition to a pipeline or investor pressure on ESG targets, this process ensures the organization retains its social license to operate and maintains forward momentum. Risk and resilience management identifies major threats like cyber attacks, climate events, or geopolitical shocks, and builds contingency plans to protect the organization's operations and value. Led by enterprise risk and business continuity teams, the process involves an annual deep dive review and quarterly updates to a live risk register. It draws on inputs from scenario planning, risk assessments, and organizational data to produce mitigation plans and resilience KPIs. Supported by ERM systems and AI-driven risk scoring, this function ensures the business is prepared for high-impact disruptions. Ultimately, it safeguards continuity, lowers insurance exposure, and keeps the organization ahead of emerging risks. ESG and sustainability governance ensures the organization tracks emissions, sets credible green targets, and reports transparently to stakeholders. With ESG performance now closely tied to investment and financing opportunities, this process has become critical. ESG managers and analysts monitor key indicators monthly and produce a full annual disclosure aligned with global standards like GRI and SASB. Drawing on emission inventories and stakeholder expectations, the team develops ESG roadmaps and scorecards using reporting platforms and GHG tools. Supported by AI for KPI tracking and forecasting, this function balances compliance with reputational value, enabling access to ESG-linked financing while meeting growing environmental expectations. Workforce and capability planning ensures the organization has the right people with the right skills at the right time. By mapping future talent needs against current capabilities, HR strategists and learning teams identify skill gaps and address them through targeted hiring, training, or succession planning. This process is reviewed twice a year and draws on project forecasts, attrition data, and education partnerships. Using HRS platforms and workforce analytics, supported by AI for predictive modeling and attrition risk, teams build recruitment roadmaps that align with capacity and digital transformation goals. It helps reduce turnover, meet localization targets, and maintain a steady flow of qualified talent. Digital Transformation Roadmap defines how the organization will adopt emerging technologies like AI, IoT sensors, and cloud platforms over the next 5 to 15 years. Led by the Chief Digital Officer and IT strategists, this process ensures that technology investments align with business priorities, improve operational efficiency, and strengthen cyber resilience. The roadmap is refreshed every 2 years, with progress tracked quarterly to keep pace with evolving tech landscapes. Inputs include current IT/OT architecture, business strategy, and emerging tech trends, resulting in a long-term digital investment plan and governance model. Supported by EA tools and impact simulations, this roadmap connects digital spend to measurable value, enabling the organization to stay competitive, agile, and secure. Performance management and continuous improvement ensures the organization stays on course by tracking key performance indicators, investigating root causes of underperformance, and launching targeted improvement initiatives. Performance managers and process leads conduct quarterly reviews and drive 4-week action sprints focused on measurable progress. Using balanced scorecard platforms and improvement software, they analyze KPI dashboards, audit findings, and benchmarking data to identify opportunities for efficiency and alignment. Supported by AI tools for root cause analysis and performance prediction, the process helps build a culture where excellence is sustained through incremental gains. It draws on insights from all strategic processes and keeps the organization agile, accountable, and improvement-driven. Market intelligence and competitor analysis continuously monitors global gas markets, LNG price trends, rival projects, and geopolitical developments to provide strategic foresight for long-term planning. This function helps the organization anticipate competitor moves, like new mega LNG trains or cross-border pipelines, and respond with well-timed investments or contract renegotiations. Led by market intelligence leads, analysts, and traders, the team synthesizes real-time data streams into actionable insights, issuing quarterly market outlooks and immediate alerts on material events. Using platforms like Kepler, Bloomberg NEF, and Azure Data Lake, they produce dashboards and risk heat maps supported by AI tools for news scraping, clustering, and pricing forecasts. With inputs from demand forecasting, sustainability planning, and regulatory updates, this process keeps the organization strategically ahead, better positioned to defend market share and navigate volatility with confidence. Asset retirement and decommissioning planning manages the structured phase-out of aging pipelines, processing plants, and wells, ensuring that each asset is safely retired, costed, and restored in compliance with environmental and regulatory standards. Rather than treating end-of-life infrastructure as a risk, this process turns it into a managed, budgeted, and regulator-approved program. Led by decommissioning managers, HSE specialists, and finance controllers, the team develops a 15-year roadmap refreshed every 3 years, with annual reviews of costs and schedules. Inputs like asset age, integrity data, and reservoir depletion forecasts inform detailed abandonment plans and restoration requirements. Using tools like ABL Decomvision, SAP, and Primavera P6, Alongside environmental models and AI-driven cost escalation forecasts, teams plan for plug-and-abandon operations while freeing up bonding capital. This function relies on insights from supply forecasting, capacity planning, risk management, and ESG governance to ensure alignment and foresight. By addressing abandonment proactively, the organization avoids last-minute surprises, reduces liability exposure, and reinforces its commitment to safety, compliance, and environmental stewardship. This video has outlined the complete as-is process for strategic gas planning and operations across the oil and gas value chain, from initial data gathering to long-term asset retirement. Each step reflects current typical practices in the industry, leveraging widely adopted tools such as SAP, Azure, Primavera, Pipeline Studio, and ESG reporting platforms. Together, these processes represent how leading energy organizations manage complexity, mitigate risk, and maximize long-term value in today's volatile energy environment.